Welcome to Caregiver SOS On Air, presented by the WellMed Charitable Foundation, with nationally known gerontologist Carol Zernail and award-winning veteran broadcaster Ron Aaron. This program provides health, wellness, and other information for caregivers who are vital to the health and well-being of so many people across our country. And now, here are your hosts, Ron Aaron and Carol Zernail.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air. I'm Ron Aaron. We're delighted to have you with us. Our co-host, Carol Zernail, is here. Carol holds a master's degree in social gerontology with 30 years experience in the field. She's the co-chair of the Raise Family Caregiving Advisory Council and executive director of the WellMed Charitable Foundation. And in the small world category, Carol, our next guest is someone you know.
Well, I had the pleasure of seeing Mary Eck give a presentation on Dementia Friendly America just a few weeks ago, and I was so impressed and thought it was such an important opportunity to talk about what is going on in the dementia-friendly world that I'm thrilled that she's joining us today.
Well, let me take a moment and introduce her. Mary Eck joined U.S. Aging in 2021 as Director for Community Care Corps and Dementia Friendly America. She supports Community Care Corps grantees, dementia-friendly communities, and Dementia Friends administrators by providing technical assistance, facilitating learning, collaborating and webinars, and managing the development and sharing of resources. And she's been working in this field for a whole lot of years. I had a chance to run to the web and internet and Googled her, and one of the things I found so interesting is some of the real live help that they can provide to first responders, to others, and then how to deal with everyday life that everyone with dementia faces. Grocery stores, banks, whatever it is, how do you manage that? So Mary Eck, delighted to have you with us.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Carol, for having me. It's just a thrill to be here, and I always love to talk about the great work of the Dementia Friendly America movement and how it's grown since its earliest days.
How unfriendly is the world around us to those with dementia?
You know, that's a good question. I wouldn't necessarily say unfriendly. I would just say lacking awareness and not feeling equipped. And that's our role at Dementia Friendly America, is to give people, just your everyday individual community member, the tools to have more confidence in recognizing the signs of dementia, some communication tips for people with dementia, and just ways to approach someone and give them the support that they need. So I think it's really just a matter of equipping them, because I truly believe, at the heart of every person is the desire to support their neighbor. And when they don't, it's usually because they don't know how.
Well, you described Dementia Friendly as a movement, which makes my heart sing. So it's more than one person. It's more than one community. Can you talk about where you started and kind of how big is this Dementia Friendly world now?
Absolutely. And it's movement is a new word we've been using. We used to talk about Dementia Friendly America as an initiative, and that is how it began. And it has grown into a movement. And I am equally as thrilled to hear that, Carol, to hear that word being used. So this work began in 2011 in Minnesota, and it was actually called Prepare Minnesota for Alzheimer's in 2020, knowing that baby boomers would be reaching 65 and older, and we were not prepared. So we started with working groups and created an incredible state model with a number of components, but the ones that carried forward to the national movement was our dementia-friendly communities and the multi-sector approach to bringing communities together to support people living with dementia and their care partners. So the work began, as I mentioned, through the development of a number of working groups in Minnesota back in 2011. And then by 2015, we presented at the White House Conference on Aging and we were adopted as a national initiative. And US Aging stepped up to serve as the administrators of the initiative. And we began with 6 pilot communities and have grown to over 400 communities that have joined the DFA network.
That's fantastic. 400 communities. Wow. And then if you think of a community being all those banks, those grocery stores, those, the planning departments, that's a lot of people.
Well, it is, and another number that we're really excited about is the fact that we're approaching 250,000 dementia friends, and those are individuals who have made a commitment to recognize people living with dementia, to be supportive, to commit to one action that supports people living with dementia and their care partners. And we offer that we began that program in 2016. And it's just an education program. It's not a certification, but it's just an information session. As I mentioned earlier, people don't feel equipped. And so the goal of Dementia Friends is to help your everyday individual not be afraid of dementia, to understand what it is, to understand how they can be supportive, how they can communicate, and that people can live well with dementia if provided with the proper supports.
Now,
And
hold
so
that
we
thought.
know we are.
I'm going to come right back to you, but I want to let folks who just joined us know you're listening to the award-winning Caregiver SOS on air. Our podcast's available wherever you listen to your podcast. We're also on the radio in several markets in Texas and Florida as well. Carol Zernail, our co-host, is here, and we're talking with Mary Eck. And Mary has a lot of experience talking about exactly where we are, Dementia Friendly America. And Mary, one of the things that struck me when I was able to Google and find out some information about what you all are up to are the challenges that 911 operators face getting a call from someone who may have dementia, and the kind of learning programs you have for those folks.
Yes, we do focus on first responders as one of the sectors that we have kind of sector specific education for them. And so really it's an adaptation of the Dementia Friends program, but kind of talks about specific scenarios that a first responder might face. So we have a sector guide for first responders, and then accompanied with our Dementia Friends session, they are really getting an idea of how they can just more accurately and compassionately respond to someone living with dementia. We think of someone who may have walked out of the grocery store without paying or forgot, to check all of their items. And instead of responding with this person's trying to get away with something, trying to steal, they can recognize those signs and respond in a more appropriate way.
Yeah, and that's so important. I think of my aunt who was actually jailed for being a kleptomaniac. She was putting stuff in her purse. She was a shoplifter, and she lived many years with dementia. And that was really one of the first symptoms, was when she started picking things up in the store and just putting them in her purse. And she actually went to jail for a little bit for that crime.
Yes, and you know how hard that is for both the person living with dementia and then their care partners who, if only people understood, and if only I could go to the grocery store and know that people would respond well, or we could go to the library, or have, go to the movie theater and go to the movies where we can have a no hush screening. Some of our communities are doing, where they keep the lights on, or they take breaks during the movie, or people can get up and dance or speak throughout the movie, and it's not frowned upon. It's a welcoming environment. So knowing that that's just as important for the caregiver.
Now, you train folks who are in the business of helping people in their stores, checkers at grocery stores, for example, and for those caring for someone with dementia. How do folks find out about the training programs you have, and how do they access them?
Well, our website is a wealth of resources, really a clearinghouse of dementia-friendly resources. And so we have community conveners in a number of our states, and they serve as a hub for dementia-friendly efforts within the state. All of our resources are in the public domain, so we we are hoping to increase awareness about these available resources for anyone to use. Oftentimes the communities will host kind of a kickoff saying that we are starting this effort, and then different sectors will engage and we will bring these education sessions into specific sectors.
Now, what might someone find in those 400 dementia-friendly communities that you are now involved in? How are they different than your ordinary run-of-the-mill community?
Mm. Well, in many ways, they're the same, and I'll be honest that they look different depending on the capacity the community has for this work. So there may be a community that is starting with their faith communities, and they're creating faith communities that are welcoming of people living with dementia. Or the libraries are another sector that is usually kind of considered our low-hanging fruit because they are a community resource and often have the capacity to gear some of their programming and resources toward adults, well, anyone living with dementia and their care partners.
And what
so we have memory.
What might you find in a library, for example, other than books?
Right. You might find a memory cafe, so a program where people living with dementia and their care partners can engage in an activity together with other people living with dementia and care partners. So a fun engagement opportunity, dementia resources, books with larger print, but adult content. So more of a picture book, but something that would be appropriate for, an older adult. And so just, accommodations within the reading materials, a quiet area where it's quiet, but they can talk. So they're not, getting hushed in the library. So an area that is welcoming for them to read aloud with a care partner.
We're going to come right back to Mary Eck, who's our special guest today. You find her at Dementia Friendly America. I'm Ron Aaron. Carol Zernail, our co-host, is here. You're listening to the award-winning Caregiver SOS on Air.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Caregiver SOS on Air. We're delighted to have you with us. We come to you every week with a discussion of an issue, a problem, some accomplishments involved in caregiving with more than 60 million caregivers across this country, but most thinking they are the Lone Rangers. We try to bring you the latest information and help that can make that job easier and more manageable. Caregiver SOS on Air takes a look at trends across this country. We provide tips on how to be a better caregiver, and most importantly, where you can go for help. On Caregiver SOS on Air, we try to give you what you need to make that caregiving manageable and to provide you with the help that can make your life easier. I'm Ron Aaron. Carol Zernail and I are delighted to co-host this program, and we're thrilled you've joined us on the award-winning Caregiver SOS on Air podcasts available everywhere, brought to you by WellMed Charitable Foundation.
Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Really good to see you once again. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Really good to see you once again.
Well, we're so pleased you're sticking with us right here on the award-winning Caregiver SOS on Air. Our podcast available wherever you get your podcast. We're also on the radio in several markets in Texas and Florida as well. We're talking with Mary Eck. And Mary, as you've been hearing, is with Dementia Friendly America, the Director of Community Care Corps. I'm Ron Aaron, along with Carol Zernail. And Mary Eck, we've been talking about the kind of services that you offer. And for folks who are interested, what is it that attracted you to this field?
That's a great question. I think if you really get down to it, most people have a personal story about a loved one living with dementia, and mine is my grandmother. I cared for her when I was a teenager, and I remember it wasn't called Alzheimer's. It was, she was having mini strokes. So even the word dementia was not being used. But in learning more about dementia, when I began to engage in this work, it certainly brought me back to my days with my grandmother and just how important it was for us to be with her, to have people around her that cared for her, and then also to be able to bring her out into the community and to know that she would be cared for. But that was back in a time when you didn't say the word dementia or you didn't say the word Alzheimer's, and there was much more stigma. And while we still have work to do around stigma and teaching people, what dementia looks like, knowing that it's not just an older adult, sitting in a wheelchair staring off into space. It could be the 50-year-old gentleman with his kids, at the baseball game. And we just need to, raise awareness about the breadth of dementia and the trajectory from diagnosis to end of life, which, there is no set trajectory. So people can live well for a very long time with dementia. And we want to honor that and nurture that and create communities where people living with dementia can live, engage, and thrive.
Carol?
Well, you sort of touched on it there at the end, Mary, but I'm just curious about success. So, you've talked about this awareness campaign and the communities, but what's on your wish list? While you're working in this program, what is it that's kind of, what would you like to see? What's the kind of the goal that you have, or what does success look like?
Yeah. I would like people to talk about dementia friendly when they talk about age friendly. There's a huge age friendly effort, and I believe that we can't talk about age friendly unless we talk about dementia friendly. So that is one wish, to be, I guess, to continue to be aligned with age friendly efforts, but to be seen as an important issue. I mean, we look at the numbers, 7 million people living with Alzheimer's today, and that number will only increase. So my wish is that people will start appreciating more and more the importance of this work and some of the simplicity in the work that we do. We think of, while we're looking for a cure, there are people today who need our support. And with some just simple education, really teaching people how to be kind and to not be afraid of being kind. And it looks very similar to just how you would be kind to anyone, but just seeing people living with dementia and walking toward them rather than away. And those are Sandy Markwood's words. We want to teach people to walk toward people living with dementia rather than away. And our goal with Dementia Friendly America is a world where no matter where somebody is living with dementia, they are in a welcome and supportive environment. And we're on a mission to make that happen. And given the growth of our movement, which is mostly fueled by very few resources and volunteers and people passionate about this work, this movement has certainly grown from 6 communities to now 250,000 Dementia Friends and over 400, and that number continues to grow. I would love to see memory cafes in every community. We have a new partnership with the Memory Cafe Alliance with over 600 memory cafes listed on our directory.
What are memory cafes?
Memory cafes are incredible, Ron. They are opportunities for people living with dementia and their care partners to engage in an event together or in a class together. So they're usually housed in community-based organizations, area agencies on aging, faith communities, libraries, and it's an opportunity for a caregiver and a person living with dementia to come together with others on this similar journey and listen to music or play a game together or bring in a speaker who will entertain the group or do an art activity together. There's usually food served, and it's not a support group. It's not talking about dementia. It's just an opportunity to enjoy time together in a safe, comfortable environment. And they're taking off, we say that it's not a support group, and it's not a respite where a care partner leaves their loved one living with dementia, but it is a respite in that they get to just sit with others and enjoy, a fun experience with their loved one.
It's not mommy's day out.
No, it is not mommy's day out, but it's mommy's time out to enjoy, to kind of step away from some of the challenges that they might be experiencing at home and in the day-to-day caregiving, and to just enjoy being with their loved one. And they turn into something for many people, to a support group outside of the actual memory cafe itself. They make connections with other caregivers. I have a neighbor who has a long-standing relationship, and they're the last two caregivers of their memory cafe that they began going to 20 years ago. So they've walked the journey with each other. They've said goodbye to their loved ones, both people living with dementia and care partners, but they've supported each other on this journey. And it all began at a memory cafe, building those connections.
Well, you mentioned the area agencies on aging. So can you talk, what is an area agency on aging, and how does that relate to U.S. Aging, that houses your program?
Yes. Well, U.S. Aging is the membership organization for all of the area agencies on aging in the U.S., and there are over, I think, 900 now, and about over 600 are members of U.S. Aging, and so they are an advocacy organization for area agencies on aging, and an area agency on aging provides services and support and advocacy for older adults and adults with disabilities, and they receive funding through the Older Americans Act, and so they were a natural fit for. As the administrator of Dementia Friendly America, knowing of their commitment to bring the community together, to be, kind of a lighthouse in the community for older adults and adults with disabilities that are looking for support.
How are they?
Yeah, and I would just add before she goes on that every community has an area agency on aging. So you can Google area agency on aging, name of your county or city, or go to the elder care locator.
Yes,
to find the one that's closest to you and learn all about resources in your community.
Yeah, one of their greatest resources is the elder care locator that allows people to search for their local area agency on aging and services that are offered. So just really an incredible resource, along with other programs that they support at the national level, whether it's an administration for community living grant, but all programs that foster aging well and living well.
Now, you hinted earlier that you're not exactly rolling in cash at Dementia Friendly America. How are you supported, and how is U.S. Aging supported?
U.S. Aging is supported through its members and through some federal funding through grants that they administer. Dementia Friendly America is not supported through federal grants or the Older Americans Act. We rely strictly on donations and private philanthropy.
So there's a need out there, any philanthropist or anybody that is looking for a new charity of choice to think about Dementia Friendly America.
Absolutely. We've cracked the code on collaboration. We are a staff of two, run it at the national level, but we are a network of 39 Dementia Friends sublicense holders and 23 community conveners, and then all of our community leads who really come together and share any resource they create. And that's allowed us to have the library of resources that we have and the connection with communities throughout the nation.
We can be even more impressed if staff of two, and where would people find you if they're looking for a Dementia Friendly America?
dfamerica.org.
dfamerica.org.
Yes, and you will be able to get information about starting your own community, our sector guides, our Dementia Friends program, our memory cafes, and we recently began hosting a directory of dementia-friendly choirs. So the Giving Voice Network, where people can come together with their loved one and some volunteers that provide an opportunity for people living with dementia and their care partners to sing together. And if you haven't been to a dementia-friendly choir concert, you're really missing out. It's just incredible. Pure
That's
joy.
Cool. And can you find some examples on YouTube?
Yes, absolutely. If you look up Giving Voice on YouTube, and you can see some in action. They actually opened up our conference, our U.S. Aging Conference last summer in Chicago.
Got to stop you right there, Mary Eck. We are flat out of time. Thank you to Carol Zernail, our co-host. Thank you to Mary Eck, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm Ron Aaron. You've been listening to Caregiver SOS On Air.
The executive producer for Caregiver SOS On Air is Daniel Calderon. The producer is Sharice Pendleton. And the associate producer is Catherine Oglesby. We'll see you next week on Caregiver SOS On Air.
You've been listening to Caregiver SOS On Air, an exclusive presentation of the WellMed Charitable Foundation. We welcome emails with suggestions and comments on this program at radio@wellmed.net. Join co-hosts Carol Zernail and Ron Aaron next week for more on caregiving, improving the health and well-being of caregivers and their care recipients everywhere. For more on caregiving and podcasts of our programs, visit caregiversos.org.